Hi there, this is Jeff Galashaw, and we're back again out in the wilderness. I feel so one with nature and with all of you. If you can get out when it's a nice day, breathe it in. This week, I'd like to talk about movie genres. The genres I'd like to talk about are my favorites and why. I mean, we can talk about any movie genre, but mine in particular, like me, I love horror films. What I enjoy about horror films are its unpredictability. It usually doesn't have any stars in it, so you can't say, oh, well, I know such and such isn't going to die because they're the big name. And then even when they do, usually, if it's something like Scream, they'll kill the person off in the first few minutes, so then it leaves you to wonder, well, who am I to follow? It throws you off balance. For the most part, it's one of the few genres where you can be in a remote place and the film will not, you don't have to worry about the film being boring because you have to add thrills and chills into it. And even though it could be cliche-ridden, as long as you turn those cliches on its head, or even if you keep the cliches, the audience will still be interested. And it's one of the few places where you can play with the rules and the film still be entertaining to an audience. It's not like I'm a worshiper of violence. I'm not, but I mean, the violence is a little exciting now and again. You get an immediate reaction to what you're seeing when it comes to horror, whereas drama and comedy can be a little bit more subtle. With horror, it's just you have an immediate reaction to what's going on. And even though you might not like what's going on, you can't take your eyes off it. So you're like transfixed and you don't want to leave because you want to see how it's going to resolve itself. My next favorite genre is actually comedy. Because, again, there's an immediate reaction because it wants you to laugh. It wants you to enjoy yourself. There's the more, lowbrow comedy, which is, more like the National Lampoon type of stuff. But then there's also the more cerebral comedy where you get, like with Woody Allen. There's the middle of the road comedy where, you have more, I would say, more trying to tell a story that just has comedic elements in it. And then, of course, there's the ever-popular dramedy, which is a mixture of drama and comedy. My next favorite genre, I don't know if this really counts as a genre, though, is actually foreign films. Because with foreign, you can put anything in it. It can be horror, it can be comedy, it can be drama. Usually when I watch foreign films, one of the things that I love about them is that since they're made outside of the U.S., the films aren't necessarily as focused on just making money and just trying to be 90 minutes of, like, let's say an ad. Also, what I like about them is that the film is more focused on character more than anything. And would the character realistically do this? Would the character realistically not do that? As well as story, and I feel like, unfortunately, that is what a lot of American films seem to drop the ball with. I mean, I'm not saying all, again, I'm just saying a lot. The filmmakers of the 70s were more or less influenced by, the European and foreign filmmakers. And the indie 90s, I mean, while doing films on low budget, they wanted to do something that wasn't necessarily mainstream of what everybody else was doing. They want to tell dramatic stories or comedic stories, but it be more character-based. My next one is actually thriller, which I guess could be kind of horror, but the difference between thriller and horror is that with a horror, it lives up to its title. It's truly horrorful what you're seeing. It's a serial killer on the loose and gutting people and guts and balls to the wall and action. Whereas a thriller to me is more of a mind game with the audience. That is where, like a Brian De Palma movie is a thriller. Whereas if you ask me, Wes Craven has made quite a few thrillers, but most of the films he makes are horror. With thrillers, you more have to think. And it preys on maybe your concepts of what you think will happen, and then something totally different happens. Watching a thriller, I don't really get sickened. Whereas with a horror film, like something like a Serbian film or a Cannibal Holocaust, I'm truly sickened by what I'm seeing. When it comes to comedy, I mean, there's the Wes Andersons, and I don't care what any of you say, there's your Kevin Smiths. Those are, you know, I like those films, but, you know, there's plenty. Classic Ivan Reitman, not modern Ivan Reitman. You know, I like Nicole Hofstadter, you know, who directed Walking and Talking, among other films. When it comes to foreign films, my favorites are like Patrice Leconte, who made The Hairdresser's Husband, A Girl on the Bridge, just truly romantic films that, you know, every time I watch, I just sit there and marvel. Now we're getting into the genres I don't necessarily, probably haven't watched enough of, which is like sci-fi. I like the ideas of sci-fi, but I can admit, I have not watched a lot of them. Funny enough, these are films that probably have tons of imagination, but they don't capture my imagination enough to sit through. But I will admit, I am looking forward to Prometheus from Ridley Scott, who is supposedly the master of that genre. Though, to me, he has had his hits, but he leaves me a little cold sometimes with his other films. And then there's also animated films, which I more or less watch on at home. I rarely if ever go to see an animated film in the theater. It's not that I don't like them. I think it's more or less because I don't want to be bothered sitting in a theater full of kids who are going to talk through it. Action adventure I enjoy, but I kind of need... I have to be in the mood for it, you know, because I know it's not going to be smart. It's just basically watching a highlight reel almost of, you know, violence and action where I can say, wow, that was cool or that was good. Drama to me is like baseball. I mean, I, in my personal life, write about drama more or less, or write drama, and we can all say that, you know, we've had drama in our lives, so we can all have a personal connection to. But, you know, sometimes I'm kind of like everybody else. I'm going to the movies to be entertained. I have enough drama in my life, so I don't necessarily want to go out to a theater to see drama. That's pretty much all the genres I can think of. Feel free to tell me any I've missed, and please don't pick, like, genre hybrids, like, you didn't talk about dramedy. Not to insult my Southern fans. Or, you didn't talk about horror comedy. I hope this gives you a little bit insight into, you know, at least what I like. Feel free to tell me what, you know, genres you like. So that is enough business for this week, or at least all the business I can think of for this week. Before I say goodbye, I have to ask you, have you seen Scott Pilgrim? If not, why not? Because it's fucking awesome. And for all of those who don't like me mentioning Scott Pilgrim, have you seen The Good, the Bad, and the Weird? If not, why not? Because it's fucking awesome. And that is enough of our business for this week. Goodbye.